Just had the little beep in my ear. So, hi, good afternoon, everybody. My name's Martin Cumming, and I'm the assistant head teacher and inclusion lead at St Paul's Nursery School here in York. And I'm also joined by, I'm going to get her to introduce herself because she's there somewhere. Claire, do you want to introduce yourself as well?
Yep. Hi, everyone. I'm Claire Rigdon. I'm the head teacher at St Paul's Nursery School in ERP in York as well. I'm here to support Martin, but I don't do well with keeping quiet, so I'm sure I'll pitch in.
That's great. Thanks, Claire. And this afternoon, we're doing a half-hour whistle-stop tour of restrictive diets and supporting children in setting and in the early years. So, the outcomes that we're going to be looking at this afternoon, strange outcome, but I'm going to start off with what we won't be talking about today. Okay. And then we're going to be thinking about understanding where restrictive eating fits in with the early years foundation stage and also the nutrition guidance, which we got last year. And we've also got how we can support restrictive diets and a few ideas. This is by no means like the whole kit and caboodle of what we could be doing to help restrictive diets. This is just a whistle stop tour. And then there's also a little bit of information about where to find support if needed. Just to let you know, we are going to do a Mentimeter in a little bit. So if you've got a mobile phone handy, that would be amazing. But first of all, I'm going to talk about important information to be aware of this afternoon. Firstly, I am a teacher by trade. I'm a Senko, I'm an inclusion leader. And I also do speech and language specialist teacher on the side as well as part of the secondment. I am not a medical professional. I'm just throwing that out there this afternoon because restrictive diets is a very big area. I'm always work in conjunction with your parents, your health professionals to support children with restrictive diets. Today's session is from my perspective as an inclusion leader and special educational needs teacher. We're looking at how we can support opening children up to more food types through planning and through play. And if you have any concerns whatsoever about a child and their eating, please bring this to the attention of parents, health professionals, including health visitors or paediatricians, if your child has one in setting. And in big bold letters at the bottom, always seek advice if you are concerned about children's weight or their restrictive diets and things. Part of the perspective that we're taking it from this afternoon as well is from an SEND side of things. That's kind of my background, so that's kind of the route we're taking. What we definitely won't be covering this afternoon is we won't be covering dysphagia, which is that inability or difficulty in swallowing. That's very much the side of a medical professional, a specialist speech and language professional. As you can see, I'm gonna hyperlink all of these things this afternoon. This is from the York Hospital's speech and language therapy page, which talks about dysphagia. Some useful websites on there, but there's also a link. So it's all linked up, but we will not be talking about that side of things or tube feeding or anything like that this afternoon. So we're going to start off with the discussion. So what I'd like you to do is, not very often you get asked to get your mobile phones out, but if you could get your mobile phone out, we're going to talk about restrictive eating and what it looks like in your setting to start off with. So on your screen, you should see a QR code. I've checked this. It does work. It should work this afternoon. So if you can, just scan that QR code. If you can't scan the QR code, if you go to menti.com on your computer and put in 38456923, you should get to a Menti poll. I'm going to stop sharing that in a second, but if you haven't had a chance to scan it, it'll be on the first slide. So if you bear with me 1 second, I am going to try and do something whiz bangy. Hopefully it'll work. So if you, there we go. So you've got the QR code back up there. So what does restrictive eating look like in your setting? I'm going to give you a couple of minutes just to do that. I'm aware we've got quite a lot of to get through in quite a short amount of time. Just to let you know as well, while you're filling in your answers there, when we've stopped recording, quite happy to, I'm sure Claire will for a few minutes as well. We'll just stay behind if you've got any questions or you want some advice just about, what you could be doing in your setting. Um, there we go. So far, what does restrictive eating look like in your setting? We've got the refusal to eat, throwing food on the floor. Yep, know that one. Only eating beige food. Yes, so you've got that restricted in colours of food, things like that. Seems fussy. Yes, refusing textured food. Fantastic. Not fantastic that they're refusing textured food, but thank you for your contribution. Children eating only set dry foods. Yes, quite often dry foods rather than like moist wet foods. Not willing to eat other foods or a varied choice. Refusal to eat. Not liking fruit. Yes. Vegetarians who don't eat vegetables. That is quite a tricky one. Yes. Pulses on most sources of carbs. Okay. One of them only eats two fruits. Yeah, we've got a little one in our setting who only eats three things. Pack up only. Yes, so won't eat food from your from whoever cooks on site. If you've got a chef on site, uses safe food alongside hot dinners. Can throw tomato based. Okay. Tantrums. Uh, Discomfort at meal times, running away from table, throwing food. Yep. Not sitting at the table to eat and only eating at home with an iPad or watching the TV. I think that's a big thing at the moment, isn't it? With our young people in setting having to use different tablets and things like that to be able to that's fantastic. Thank you very much. All of these I will attach to the end of the slide so you can see what we've been discussing this afternoon. So the next one, what support do you try to put into place to support those children with restrictive diets? So give you a couple of seconds just to think about what support you put into place for them. Safe food options, brilliant. And if you've got quite a few children who've got restrictive diets, then actually providing safe food options becomes quite a bit of a bigger thing than you than you might intended it to be. Yeah, less time sitting at the table. Yeah, fantastic. Allow pack up. Yeah, allowing children to eat what they want to eat. Yes. Encouragement, praise when eating food. Fantastic. Yeah, thank you. Let eating on the floor. So without sitting at a table sort of thing, I'm taking, you mean like on a picnic rug or sitting on the carpet or yeah, I'm guessing that that's rather than eating off the floor. That's have a lick or a touch of something. Absolutely, because it's that sensory feedback that a child might need. You're right. Yes. Sattler's
Martin, we've
division.
got we've got a couple of people who can't get it to work for them.
Oh,
Chantal and
okay.
Sue.
If you want to put anything into the chat, actually, Claire, if you don't mind having a look at the chat, that would be great. If you can't get the
Yep.
Menti to work, apologies that that's not working for you. Encourage children to join in cooking activities. Thank you. Well, I think that's my job done for the afternoon, so we'll end. No, that's brilliant. Thank you so much for that. Use safe foods provided by parents, provide fidget toys, restraint bands, and things to keep them distracted. Fantastic. Thank you. I've not put that in my presentation this afternoon, but yeah, absolutely. Fidget toys, restraint bands, things like that to help keep them distracted is a great idea. Sometimes you might want to put some music on in the background and something like that just to distract. Fantastic. Super. I'll go back to my
While
PowerPoint.
you do that, Martin, we've
Yeah,
got letting them come to the table in their own time or having a table on their own and showing them what is on offer first.
fantastic. Thank you. Let me just reshare my slide. So, fantastic. Thank you for that. Um, I don't know about you, but when the EYFS guidance on nutrition came out last year, it felt a little bit scary and a little bit daunting that people were going to be looking at kind of what's in pack-ups and things and being picked up on what was in pack-ups and sort of like that whole thing around ensuring that it's a balanced plate, etc. But then having to think then on top of that about how we then still support our children with additional needs and those children who do have those restricted diets and those children who won't eat a plate of, they've got their vegetables and their carbs and their protein and things. And actually, this guidance here, which is the early years foundation stage nutrition guidance, page 36, actually helps support and outline those children who have got additional needs. I'm sure you'll be familiar with this, but it does talk about the fact that if a child does have a special diet for a medical reason, or an additional need, it's important to have written confirmation from qualified health professionals about that. I'm not sure whether all the time that's needed. I think if you've got parental discussion about that, they've got an identified need. I think that actually you're okay with ensuring that their food needs are met in the way that you need to help support them. But it's a really I've hyperlinked this as well. It's a really interesting document, and those last few pages, page 36 onwards, just tells you about the support and guidance that you need to put in there. There's not something specifically about those children who have like those beige diets as we were thinking about, but they have got about sensitivity to textures, tastes, smells, and actual limited preferences and aversions to specific food types. But it is worth a look if you've not specifically looked at the SEN side of that slide. What it does say in that guidance is that it's important to consider children who may experience those sensory needs in relation to foods. So the sensitivity to textures, as somebody said before, somebody will only have crispy, dry things. They may not have like the moist side of foods and things, tastes or smells, which can lead to limited preferences or aversions towards specific foods. You should consider these needs when planning menus and providing food, which I think, as you've shown me this afternoon on the Menti, I think that we're all, trying to do that the best that we possibly can in the settings that we're working in. This is again taken from the guidance, and it talks about food modification for particular children. So thinking about what you're going to put in place. Obviously, we're going to have a look about food play in a second, but if you are thinking about food play, just make sure, obviously, that you are thinking about special dietary requirements. So any children who are gluten-free, or somebody was saying vegetarians who not eating vegetables, which is very tricky, you might just need to think about what you're putting out in the food play. What I thought we'd have a look at this afternoon is how food play and restricted diets comes into using the DFE guidance from the DFE, but also from Dingley's Promise. And if you're not familiar with these tools, they're downloadable off the internet. They are absolutely brilliant for helping support children, planning for children and outcomes for children in the early years. Broken down into the four broad areas of need from the Code of Practice. So you've got communication, interaction, cognition and learning, social and emotional, and sensory and physical. And the one we're going to be sort of most looking at this afternoon is that sensory and physical side of things, because that's where food and that self-care aspect of things comes into play. And I thought I'd share this afternoon just the statements that actually come from there that specifically look and are designed to look at food. So DFE statements are: I try new foods during meal times. I can feed myself with some success using hands or cutlery. I will engage with new textures with interest, and I can drink from an open top cup without support. We have quite a high proportion of children with SEND in our setting, and a few of our children, when they've started, haven't even, and we're talking 2.5, 3-year-olds, haven't even been trying to feed themselves. They've either been fed at home, or that's the support that they've needed. And through encouragement, those 2 children that we've had are now starting to to pick up foods when given foods and things. So it's about encouraging quite a lot of time. But those are the statements that we kind of look at when we're looking at trying to put food play into place. We can also use these statements, which are brilliant for my success plans, or as the white paper's calling them now, individual success plans, if that's gets through Parliament. And so, you've got outcomes here written already to help engage with food play. So just thought I would show you this afternoon just how we plan to put food play into our areas of provision. This is from our House Martins and Little Owls group, which the Little Owls are our ERP and the House Martins are children who've got additional needs. Additional needs. And so this is taken from this week. So our story of the week this week is a squash and a squeeze. And we focused a little bit on ensuring that there's food play in there at some point through the week. So the food play that we've done this week, we started off on Monday. We were doing a farmyard for retelling the story of a squash and a squeeze. So we've put Weetabix crushed up and put into a tough tray with animals and farmhouse and things for the squash and the squeeze story, so we could do the retelling through that. But we put the Weetabix in because of the texture, because some of our children who have a more restricted diet have played with that. It's a little disconcerting when they're having handfuls of dried texture, but at the same time they're trying it and they're experiencing and experimenting with that. And then tomorrow we're looking at, because it's squash and a squeeze, we're thinking about the word squash and squeeze. So we're using jelly, we're using ice, we're using different things that the children can feel, touch, and if they mouth it, that is absolutely fine as well, because it's safe to, but it's trying to get, again, them used to different textures. We find quite a few of our children don't like playing with like wet sand and wet textures and things. So that's something that we try and introduce through play. And it's also something that we try and do weekly. We should usually have some form of food play throughout the week. So this is kind of what we're looking at. I've realised when I was doing this afternoon that none of our assessment areas actually have the 4 statements that we were looking at, but that's because we do this quite frequently and we try to rotate our statements that we're using. So this was from Monday. So this is our farmyard for retelling the story of a squash and a squeeze. So Weetabix in the farmyard, you can see that all of the horses are having a sleep by the looks of things. I've not shown children's faces on these, but the look of delight on this little lad's face when he was playing in this was great, absolutely fantastic. And it was also before half of the Weetabix got eaten, so, or sprinkled across the floor, hence why it's playing on the floor. But this would be, I will engage with new textures. Okay, sorry, my slide has just cut the last little bit off. So looking at encouraging it playing with new textures within play. So thinking about how we're going to link that into other areas of learning as well. Weekly, we send home a learning sheet. So for example, a few weeks ago, in February, we were looking at the book We Are the Shapes, sorry. So we send home words of the week. So we've got square and triangle, we've got Makaton signs as well to help support that language development. But again, we're using sensory trays. We're using food play to help support the children. So again, real interest in the textures and the food, and actually if we can start helping to enthuse children to just even play with those textures and play with those foods, and even just as somebody said, just give them a little offering or a little lick of them, then actually we may see children starting to expand the foods that they eat. So for example, on this one, the food, when it started, was in the shapes of the shapes that are on the tough tray, and then we were using paintbrushes. So you've got your gross motor and fine motor control as well in there, and sprinkling them and trying to get them back into the shapes. We've also in the bottom right hand corner there got the Gruffalo story. So we were using Cheerios for this particular activity on one side of the river and uh, co Rice Krispies on the other side of the river, you can imagine that they didn't stay parted for long and also didn't stay on the table for long. But at the same time, it was experience, and the children were having fun in sort of like experiencing those food types. We've also in the past used the different types of food types for, so for example, the Christmas story. Instead of having snow, we had rice noodles, so the children could experience the texture, and they're obviously a little bit claggy, but some of the children like to feel them and eat them and try them. We've also used when we've been looking at maths, we've been looking at the oneness of one. So we were making vegetable soup and fruit soup, fruit salad, not fruit soup. That would be weird. Using vegetables and things. Again, children, as you can see, somebody has taken a nibble out of the orange and also out of the broccoli as well, actually. And then the little lad whose arm you can see with the green t-shirt, he then took his the carrot from the recipe, sat behind the trampoline and devoured the whole thing. So, and actually, he's not usually a carrot eater. So actually, giving him that exposure to food was again a bit of a game changer. And again, you can see other photos there from those types of food as well. And then also not just thinking about trying to eat the food, we're also trying to think about the textures as well. So we've used ice play. So around Christmas time, we were using ice, different food colorings in the ice, and also juice and things like that. So if the children do eat it, they can taste different flavors and different sensations and textures and tastes. And then also we've used vegetables and other foodstuffs for mark making, block printing, and things like that, which kind of is again exposing children to the different types of food and things through play. So through food play, encouraging children to try a different range of foods. Snack time is also a great way to try and introduce things. And different textures. As we've talked about, textures can sometimes be triggering for some children. So thinking about when you're giving a snack, if you've got two choices of snack, one of one texture and one of another texture, we've got some children who just devour melon to the point where you're really hoping at change time that it's not come through. But you've got other children who wouldn't touch melon but would go for apple. But if you're giving them the choice and having that there, that would really help to support them in experiencing the different types. And then in an afternoon, we usually go for a carbohydrate-based snack. So thinking and encouraging children to try different range. So we have cheese straws, we might have malt loaf. If the children don't eat the malt loaf, I have to say I will eat it instead. I don't have an issue with food textures, but I do with food waste, so I'll eat it. And crackers and cheese, that's Amanda who we work with, her favourite one. But it's also about having that support and sitting with children and eating with children as well, which I think is really important. Thinking about the environment, when you look at the guidance around nutrition, it does talk about having a modified, as well as modifying the foods offered, some adaptations to the eating environment could also be made wherever possible as a way of supporting children at meal times, such as limiting noise, other distractions, having a cloth to wipe hands if required, and not pressurizing, as somebody put on the Mentimeter, not pressurizing a child to eat when they don't need to, and allowing them to move off because we've got one little lad who takes a huge amount of time, almost the whole of lunchtime to eat his pack up, but he'll go off and have a little rest and then come back. And it's allowing them that chance. Obviously, staffing can be an issue with that. Also, do staff sit with children when they're eating? The guidance suggests that you need to be obviously close by due to choking hazards and things like that. But our children and staff are sitting together when they're eating, which is something that you could think about if you're thinking about how to modify your eating times. Some of our children do sit in a separate room as a group because the noise in the main dinner hall can be a little bit loud. Then also thinking about how you're supporting eating. So you might want to, this is an example actually. It's one of those things, when you're thinking about something and you're sort of like thinking of examples, and then this just popped up on social media last night. It's the great algorithm of social media. This came through from Widget actually last night, and it was an idea for a placemat. So children know where their cup is, where their spoon is, knife, fork, plate, for example. But also down the side of it, we've got widget visuals as well. So if you've got children with communication differences, you might, they might access that to help ask for, say, if they're feeling hungry, if they're happy, if they want some food, if they want, something to drink, etc. So it's a nice way of just supporting eating, in in the dinner hall. You might also want to think about using visuals such as core boards to help support with requesting foods and snacks at snack time. So helping children to communicate what their preferences are. You could individualize them for different children depending on what snack they have. Claire will agree with me here. We have seen some amazing progress with children with core boards and choice boards in the past, requesting food and asking for different types of food and using that as a form of communication if they're non-speaking. And also, I haven't got it on me at the moment, but you could use visuals on your lanyard as well to help with transition times so children are ready to come to snack or ready to come to lunch, giving them warning, giving them plenty of time to come and, knowing for that transition's coming up. Um, It's a whistle stop tour, and we're just at half an hour. I am aware that that was a whistle stop tour. If you've got any questions, anything else that you would like to ask about what we've just been talking about, please feel free to email me. My email will be at the end of the slide deck. If you want any conversation, I'm more than willing to give you a ring and have a chat through anything that you've got going on in setting that you might need a bit of support with, that as a teacher I can, kind of bring your way. Something that I did find when I was looking through preparing this afternoon was the National Autistic Society, which I think the web address is autism.org. Has a brilliant section about eating, and it's not just for children in the early years. You might have a family member who has restricted diet or has issues around food, and is autistic. It's a really, really good guidance. And at the end of the guidance, there are other sources of information where you can go to help support. And again, just flag up the information that you can get from your health professionals here in York and across parts of North Yorkshire. You can access the York speech language therapy website, and you can have a look at the eating side of things on there. And don't forget, if you do have a child that you're worried about, then please do contact a health professional, talk to parents, and see how you can help support that in setting. And I think what's really important is having that open dialogue with parents about what they would like as the next step to help support their child and how you can help support that in setting. I want to say a big thank you for coming this afternoon. Again, I apologise. Half an hour is actually a very short amount. I could probably have expanded the time by about another half hour and then some. But this is my email address, m.cumming@stpaulsnursery.yorkschools.net. If you've got any questions or you want any follow-up or anything like that, please don't hesitate to get in contact. Just an email away. But Natalie, if you want to stop recording there.